Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the best Rangers podcast in town. I'm Andrew Chonley alongside Nick Zararis. We scream about the Rangers so that you don't have to. This is episode 64, live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. We're recording actually on Thursday night as opposed to our usual Monday. I don't know what days are anymore. A few days early because, Nick, you are going on vacation. Now, on whatever beach you're going to, are you, the over-under, will you see Michael Del Zotto on the beach asking for someone's number? Over-under 0.5.
What would you like from theory alone? I don't know, something along those lines. You gotta get out of the lab and see. I'll keep an eye out. If I see a man who's been riding the bus in the AHL for 50 games a season for the last few years, I'll be sure to let everybody else know. I have a question for you. Speaking of that,
yeah.
How do you record in a sweatshirt, my dude? Anytime I do a podcast, by the end I am dripping in sweat. I feel like if I wore a sweatshirt, I'd be dead.
Well, I have an air conditioner running in the other room, and it is very quiet. It's a very quiet air conditioner, which is just an incredible invention, top 5 invention of all time. Essentially a quiet air conditioner that works really well. Oh baby, we're in business. So it's cool in here. I got the sweatshirt on. I'm booling. We're ready.
Just curious, because, yeah, like I said, usually I end up profusely sweating by the end of this because, air conditioners are usually loud. So there's not a whole lot going on. Even, like, all of the columns I read today, trying to come up with ideas for what we're going to talk about today, pretty much all of them led with there's no hockey news to talk about. And I read, like, 8 different columns today trying to come up with ideas. And everybody's coming up with the most convoluted things. Like, Down Goes Brown wrote 5 truths that are true about every single NHL team fan base. And it was the most generic thing I've ever read. Every fan base is not as annoying as they think they are. Every fan base is not as loud as they think they are. The refs are not out to get you. Like, this is what passes for content in the middle of August. So the fact we're doing anything alone, I feel like we should be commended, as opposed to the people who just write 1,500 words of word salad of just like, I got to send something into an editor, versus us who are actually going to talk a little bit and use more than just one part of our brain to have a conversation.
It's easy. That kind of content's easy. Well, and also, as an aside, refs are just bad at their jobs. People kind of forget that.
Correct.
The refs are not out to get your team. They are just bad at their job.
Yeah.
They don't know how to referee NHL games. It's not about, hey, they don't like your team, but they sure do love the other team. It's like, nah, bro. They just have not a single clue of how to correctly officiate a hockey game.
Nope. And the NHL is ambiguous and inconsistent with what they tell the officials to emphasize on, which only furthers the conundrum we face, where all we ask for is consistency. And you can see entirely different games called, you can see games called entirely different ways by the same crews, because the NHL just picks and chooses when they want to emphasize certain points. So let's start with this, because Arthur led his column with like 8 Patrick Kane questions in his mailbag. I'm going to ask you not about his fit with the Rangers, because we've discussed this. He's coming off a hip surgery. He didn't look particularly good as a skater. Do you think this is simply just as baseline as this is easy to get people's attention? And same thing from a Rangers perspective of, even if he doesn't fit the best, like we talked about a lot when they added him to the team in the middle of March, it really kind of threw off the juju because they juggled the lines, they rejuggled the power plays. Do you think this is more a matter of being interested in the name versus the talent at this point? Because that's really the only argument I could see.
If this was the same player, but with any different name or resume, no one would be asking about him. No one would be clamoring to get him again, or the first time around for that matter. Nobody would be tears streaming down their face that this guy is in New York, that this guy is a Ranger and he scored that one goal that one time that was relatively nice and was on the highlight reel. If this was anybody else, no one's fighting for Andrew Kopp. Yeah. Like, no one's arguing that Frank Vatrano was the savior the Rangers needed to win the Stanley Cup. Like, no one is saying that, right? It's all because Patrick Kane is Patrick Kane, because of the things he did yesteryear as opposed to the things that he can do now. And it's showtime. People love showtime, especially casual fans. Well, they know is Patrick Kane, who scored a bunch of goals in Chicago a century ago, who's won all those cups a century ago, and he was a Ranger. We want him back? Oh my God, it's Patrick Kane, it's showtime. But, if this was anybody else, if this was the same player, just with a different resume or a different name, or if this wasn't an American hero, Patrick Kane, maybe if this was, Patrick Berglund or something, insert.
You tried to make a generic European name, and you named an actual NHL player.
St. Louis Blues legend Patrick Berglund. But it's just like, if you insert some like European name, all of a sudden there's just not that kind of clarity. But because it's the American hero, and that's it's very, very cool and very great.
The Rangers do love getting American players for some reason. They like they've had 3 American captains in a row? 4, right? Because it was Drury, Callahan, McDonough, Trouba now. So yeah, the Rangers do value that American thing. So
but that's the thing though, is if he was not American and not Patrick, like if it was the same exact player, same exact person, just didn't have the name of Patrick Kane and wasn't an American hero, the mailbag would not have started with Patrick Kane.
He's somewhere between, like, you remember when Patrick Marleau went to Toronto and he was totally done? Yeah. He's not there yet.
Yeah.
But he will be there in probably a year or two. I understand the fascination. A lot of people remember those days. So the next question I have for you, and this was in, I want to say, Molly's column, and she wrote about that when she talked to Kreider at that hockey thing that was in Connecticut last week, where there were a lot of NHL players at that
Beauty League
event. Yeah, no. That's like a league. There was like a charity thing in Connecticut last week. There was a charity thing in Connecticut last week. And one of the things that they asked Kreider and Fox about was something we talked about with Sam last year, where Sam said everybody came in ready to go. Can we just get to the playoffs already? And Kreider specifically mentioned that worked against them last year, that they did not get off to a great start.
Did it?
That.
Did it now? Yeah. Oh, okay. Here I thought, thinking we were crazy, but okay. Well, I mean, if Kreider said it, then okay, we're off to it. We're off and rolling.
Like, that's the thing that drives me nuts. But I bring this up because the counterpoint to that was what Fox said, which is it's been a long summer. It's been a longer summer than I remember. Gaudreau said the same thing. That's Gaudreau's shortest summer in like 4 years. Because you got to remember, they went to the conference. He went to the conference final with San Jose. He went to the 2 cups with Tampa. Conference finals with the Rangers. Longest offseason in a long time for Gaudreau, and then several other of these guys year before. And they all said, well, we've had to stew on this for a while, and I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder about this. But the counterpoint to that is, if you need these mental tricks to like get yourself psyched up to play 82 games, isn't that an indictment of like the entire team? If like we have to play mental tricks on ourselves to get excited, like I understand these are people. Not everybody's excited to go to work. If you drive a forklift, if you're forklift certified, there are days you have to lie to yourself and be like, I can't wait to get into work today. I understand that. But to just go on record and be like, well, yeah, now we're angry. You weren't angry before? Like, it took losing to the Devils in 7 games to be like, wow, we need to be better than this. No, they lost to the Devils in 7 games.
Wasn't it 6 games?
It was 7 games, Andrew. 99.9.
Wasn't it 4-2?
It was
or was it 7?
It's
7. Been, you know what? It's essentially like it's been such a long time at this point, and it was such an epic disaster fire for the Rangers.
7.
It was 7. Okay. It was such a disaster fire that like I forgot if it was 6 or 7. But yeah, I mean either way, like I understand that like it's a job at the end of the day. Like being a hockey player is a job. And not every day is going to be all peaches and rainbows, and you're going to wake up, I get to play hockey today. Oh, man, I can't wait. It's like, we like to pretend that that's what it is because we're not pro players. And, I mean, hey, if I had the work ethic and the physique and the skills of a pro player, like, I would love to be a pro player, but I have none of those things, so I'm not. But, like, regardless of what job that you have, there's going to be days of you're just like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I would rather be anywhere. I would rather be anywhere. And that's every profession. And if you wake up and you're like, And if you're listening to us or you're watching us and you think I don't have those days, you're lying. You're lying. Everybody has those days where you wake up and you're like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I can't. I don't want it. I'd rather be anywhere. Can I just call sick? Like everybody has that, right? So, but at the opposite end of the fence here, why are pro players tricking themselves into being angry to play better hockey? That doesn't make that like. Do whatever you got to do in order to convince yourself that you have to win these games. Like, listen, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter to me how you win them as long as you win them. If you have to, Jedi mind trick yourself into believing that if you don't score 8 goals in this one game, that like things are like bad things are gonna happen. Whatever, fine. It's fine by me as long as you do the things that you're supposed to do and win the game. I don't care. But why do you have to do that in order to perform well? That's what I want to know. Like, aren't you competitive by nature because you're in a pro sport, because you're on a pro team? I mean, listen, like, I played hockey the other day. I am like, this was like 2 days ago. My body's in shambles still from playing hockey. All I wanted, we played 3 games. I mean, obviously it was like 10-minute periods and like, it wasn't too serious, but like, I wanted to win. That's all I wanted to do was win.
Andrew, I'm going to need to intervene. You're doing the thing.
I want to win. Like, if it's checkers, if it's hockey, if it's whatever it is, like, I want to win. I don't have to convince myself that, like, last year, like, we fit, like, I have to lie to myself and, like, I have this chip on my shoulder now, like, I gotta go up. Like, no, like, I want to win. I want to do whatever I can to win. But I'm not a pro player, so, what do I know?
This brings us back to what Larry wrote, like, what was that, at the beginning of July, where he said, what does it say about the team's mental makeup that they need to bring in all these old guys who haven't been in the playoffs in several years because they still need leadership? It speaks to the same thing. And funny enough, you said that about, well, if I had the talent, the ability, whatever. A couple weeks ago, I was talking with my girlfriend, her cousin, and her dad about hockey. And it's like, well, yeah, I wouldn't want to play for the Jets either. And her dad turned to me deadpan and goes, you'd play for any team that would have you. Shut up. It just deadpan mid-conversation.
He's right.
Yeah, he is. Correct. He is. And that's kind of the point that I think when we think about these games, and the Rangers were better than the outcome they had last year. And that's, I think, where our kind of confusion stems from in regards to this, like, mindset issue. Like, what didn't click for you guys last year that's an offseason of stewing about is gonna change, frankly? That's kind of where I found that so interesting. It's like, you guys were a good team last year talent-wise, and you dicked around all season. You still had a really good record. You still won, I think, 50 games. You almost beat the Devils in the first round, regardless of the fact that they outplayed you for the most part. And this is where we're at now, is we got to bring in guys like Nick Bonino and Pitlick and Blake Wheeler and Jonathan Quick, because the group we have can't get up for these moments. That's really the conundrum the Rangers are kind of facing in terms of the philosophy, the team building, the leadership, the intangibles, all the stuff the old heads love to talk about, but can't ever actually point anything out specifically.
Both of these things can be true.
That's true.
They brought in guys like Nick Bonino and Jonathan Quick and whoever else to be the leaders in the hashtag grid and the sandpaper in the locker room, like all these things. Like that's fine. Like, I guess Quick is going to be the teacher of Shesterkin, I guess. I don't know. If that's what he's doing, whatever. Sure, he has rings. I guess if rings could talk, then teach Shesterkin all that he wants to learn. Fine. On the other hand, like, Nick Bonino's just a good player, right? So at the very least, their bottom 6 contributions that the Rangers have added over the course of this summer aren't just about the intangibles, and that is one of the biggest, I think, positives of some of the moves that they made during the offseason is they didn't bring in Ryan Reeves for 3 years at $1.35 million like Toronto did. They didn't give out large contracts to players who can't play hockey. Nick Bonino is a good player, right? Pitlick is a guy who can contribute on the fourth line. You have Eric Gustafsson, a guy who can perform very well on the blue line. They have new depth pieces that can actually skate, can actually play the game of hockey, which certain guys throughout the years that the Rangers have acquired to fill out the bottom six haven't been able to do. They've acquired these guys now. So yes, guys like Nick Bonino, intangible guy, won 1 million cups, and yeah, he brings all that to the table, sure, but also good player for the value and what he needs, like what they are bringing him here for. So if the Rangers love him because he's a leader, but also secondarily he's a good hockey player, fine, whatever.
Okay. The next question I have for you is based on something that was in Arthur's column, but I'm going to open it up a little more generally because someone asked him, is Adam Fox already a top 5 Rangers defenseman of all time? And my knee-jerk reaction was yes. When I think about the Rangers' history, and we can talk, this is an entire another aside. This is a team approaching on 100 years of history and has like 15 notable players in the entire history of the sport. That's not great in terms of like, legacy and endurance. And like, yeah, that's entirely because during the original 6 era, the territory right stuff and not playing home playoff games and all of that kind of stuff that influences why it looks the way it does, big picture. But do you think this is purely just people not wanting to feel old in the same way, like when they say, well, Gretzky's better than McDavid? Yeah, he's got better numbers, but McDavid's a better hockey player than Wayne Gretzky was. Do you think it's rooted in just the intangibles of, I know what I saw, you don't know what you're talking about? Or do you think it is a genuine, well, no, because this happened and that happened?
It's the same argument across all sports. It's not just about hockey. It's about, I watched Michael Jordan in his prime, and he could beat the doors off LeBron any day of the week. It's arguments like that. It's the same kind of ridiculous barbershop conversations that essentially are just hot air. Like, comparing eras is such a waste of everyone's time. Like, Michael Jordan will never play LeBron James both in their prime. It's not happening. You can't compare what Michael Jordan did, in his championship-winning years to what LeBron is doing, what he did in Cleveland, what he did in Miami, what he's doing in LA. Like, they're not the same thing. Similarly to the way Brian Leetch played the sport of hockey is different in a lot of aspects to what Adam Fox is doing when he's playing the game of hockey. Why? Because the sport is fundamentally different. It is the same sheet of ice. It's the same puck. It's the same lines. They had 2 lines.
It's not the same lines.
They had the 2-line pass back in the day, but the lines on the ice were the same. They didn't add or subtract physical lines. The lines are still the same. All the paint is still there, but they had the 2-line pass. Like, they are playing different styles of hockey, and comparing the two when there's no way to compare without any kind of like, I watched him play, the stats say this, or any other kind of just made up statistic or whatever that you want to include. It's like, you can't. It's just it's such a waste to talk about other eras, because you're never gonna get a good answer. First of all,
okay, so
you're just
I have a counterpoint to you. I have a counterpoint. He said Marc Staal and Dan Girardi are better all-time Rangers than Adam Fox. Which I thought was
that is an absolute farce. Like, okay, listen. It's one thing to compare all-time greats. Like, if you have, if you have trouble figuring out, okay, is Adam Leetch better or worse than Adam Fox? Brian Leetch. I'm sorry, I said Adam Leetch. If Brian Leetch is better or worse than Adam Fox, that's a conversation that's never going to find a real answer. Marc Staal? Dan Girardi? Brother, listen, dude.
Neither of those guys was ever a Norris finalist. That's it. That's all I need to say. Neither of those guys was never a Norris finalist. Neither of them ever won a Norris. The peak was Dan Girardi making 1 All-Star game. Like, that was the peak of Dan Girardi's Rangers tenure.
Listen, whoever asked, was that who was that Brooks that answered it like that, or did somebody ask that question?
Arthur.
Okay, that was Arthur. I'm gonna find Arthur Staple, and I'm going to bill him for my therapy sessions, because this man, what are we talking about here? What are we doing?
they never won anything with Marc Staal and Dan Girardi. Like, they made a cup final.
They were part of the reason they didn't win anything. What are we doing here? Does anybody not remember the Dan Girardi literal pass to Ovechkin who scored in the empty net because Lundqvist was like, "What are you doing, dude? What? I'm losing my mind. Listen, I can't believe we're doing this right now. It is Thursday, August 10th, and I am losing my mind because Staple has officially made me lose my mind. It's bonkers.
Dan Girardi selling in game 1 against LA where he just slipped past the puck to LA and they won first. Like, you can't make it up. Like, that's the guy these people are defending because they liked watching him play the style he played. That, I think, is kind of that is hockey specific. Because, like, the baseball heads, like, you know, they're like, well, Pete Rose did the blah, blah, blah. Hockey guys there are people who are very loud and obnoxious about the fact that they enjoy the violent aspects of hockey. That they think guys who do the blocking shots, that do the kind of extra effort stuff, that those guys are inherently more valuable, even if they're not good at hockey, because the best players don't do that type of thing. I understand why the old heads love Dan Girardi and love Marc Staal. Objectively, Marc Staal was never the best defenseman on his own team. Dan Girardi was maybe the best defenseman on his own team one time in his entire tenure as a Ranger. That cannot be a top 5 player in the history of your franchise at a position. I'm sorry. Just objectively. That's like when Yankee fans start doing like, well, no, you can't do that because of Mariano and Jeter. And Yogi Berra won 10 World Series. Yogi Berra won 10 World Series in a different era. That's when you start losing people, is when you start going across the generations. And it's just, like you said, there is no right answer when you talk about all time. But Marc Staal is still playing hockey. Dan Girardi retired, 4 years ago now? 5 years ago now? Neither of those guys is the reason the Rangers ever won anything. Neither of them ever won any individual awards. Adam Fox is already on pace to be arguably the best player at that position, including Brian Leetch, and is going to have a real argument of being one of the 5 or 10 best Rangers ever, not just defensemen ever.
I think the ultimate argument is this. Will the Rangers ever retire Marc Staal's jersey? The answer is no.
I hope not.
I better hope not. Will they retire Dan Girardi's jersey? I better hope not, but they might. They might. I hope not, but they might. Will they retire Adam Fox's jersey? Unequivocally 100% yes. If he continues to play like the way that he has, and hopefully he'll have a long career playing the way that he has for sure, right? He will 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, have his number retired and be in the rafters for eons to come. That's the end of the argument. If the answer for Marc Staal is no, and for Dan Girardi is hopefully no, but knowing the Rangers probably yes down the line because the Rangers love their battered Warriors and whatnot, then whatever. But Adam Fox is unequivocally one of the best players in the sport. Forget the Rangers. On the planet. One of the best. Yeah. You're telling me that Marc Staal was one of the best players on the planet? Staple? Arthur.
Yeah, I understand the old head inclination to be like, nah, he's got to do more stuff. But like, he's already been a Norris finalist twice. He won the Norris already. He was amazing in the playoffs 2 years ago when they went to the conference finals. He didn't have a great series against the Devils, but, you know, give him more time. I think Adam Fox is going to end up being better than Brian Leetch. And yes, I'm probably going to get yelled at for that, but the game is more inclined. He is going to end up being more valuable. It's just a matter of if the Rangers win anything or not. I think ultimately we'll decide if it's the same argument. Well, I'm not even going to even slightly indulge the people who are like Richter was better than Lundqvist, because that's just nonsense.
It's just
because like he won a cup and that's great and all, but like Lundqvist's a better talent. Adam Fox is a better talent than either Dan Girardi or Marc Staal. Okay, the last question I have here before we can riff or whatever. I think people are very kind of just overlooking the fact the backup goalie had an .875 save percentage last year and looked effectively done. And everybody's just assuming that, oh, he'll be fine. He's going to get a new landing spot. And like, Vegas is a better team than the Rangers. The Rangers concede a lot. defensively. And for everybody to just kind of be like, oh, it'll be fine because of his track record is kind of like that's 20 games we're talking about. Your backup has to play 20, 25 games this year. And like, I'm not exactly enthusiastic about the prospect of Louis Domingue starting 10 games either. I mean, there's a reason Louis Domingue was in the AHL all of last year, and that Jonathan Quick, the Kings who were trying to win, said, we got to get rid of this guy.
Well, they a lot of the reason they got rid of him was because of the contract. But yes, I like that. That's also true. Like, he was also just bad. Yes. The Kings were like, oh, this guy's making a bunch of money. He's also really bad. We got to get rid of him now. So it's the same thing with Patrick Kane. Of this guy won cups during the Renaissance. So what? Like, how bad could it possibly be? My brother, like, it's 2023, about to be 2024. The Renaissance was a long time ago. It's time to move on. It's time. Like, it's great that Jonathan Quick is another American hero, another leader.
Nah, he was bad in the Olympics. He was really bad in the Olympics.
He's an American hero, Nick. American hero. But like, it's great that he can be the leader in the locker room, and he could be the teacher that Shesterkin needed because Lundqvist didn't do enough of that. Like, all these things are great. Can he play? Because the answer that we saw last year was a big fat no. Big fat no. Vegas literally won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And he was terrible. He was so bad.
I think
they couldn't play.
Eventually, Benoit Allaire has to run out of pixie dust, right? I mean, like, they've had bad backups at times. Like, there have definitely been points. Like, the Marty Biron years were kind of lean. There was the year they had Andre Pavlik, who was pretty bad. They've had bad backups in recent years. It's just they've gotten decent hit rates. They had Talbot. They had Ranta. They've done relatively well on the back. Georgiev. They've done relatively well on the backups. And I think people just assume that no matter who they get in there is going to be decent. If they get like an Andre Pavlik 890 would be an upgrade for Jonathan Quick. Like we said, 875 save percentage last year.
It's going to come down to one of those things where, like, early December, the Rangers will realize, oh, this dude's done. Yeah. Oh, this is not gonna end well. And they'll trade for a chance
of that. There's a real chance of that happening this season where it's just like, oh, we can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And we see Louis Domingue, which, again, that would not be great either because there's a reason Louis Domingue's been in the AHL for most of the last 3 to 4 seasons. Like, it's great he got in those playoffs for the Penguins, but there's a reason the Penguins lost that series ultimately.
Yeah. He tried his best, but let me tell you something. Oh, that I will never forget that blue line goal that he gave up. Like, it was just I forget who scored it too. Just threw it on net. Well, which is hilariously enough, the thing that the Rangers never do is just kind of throw it at the net and see what happens, which,
they don't have any puck retrievers. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's too.
That's why they don't do that. Like, on a team like Carolina or Calgary or New Jersey, a team that, gets the puck fast and recovers and resets, it makes sense to do that. The Rangers have maybe one guy who's above average at that in Kreider, and he doesn't do it that often. Like, if Kreider's not deflecting the puck more often than not, he's just not touching the puck in the offensive zone, which is frustrating, but I digress.
I would love for the Rangers to shoot the puck. That's it. That's the end of the sentence. Because they don't do that. They will pass it 95 times until either Panarin or Zibanejad have a wide open net to which they will score, or they will lose the puck, and then the fans at MSG start booing. Those are the two options. Like, that's what the Rangers offense is. Hopefully Laviolette can fix that. But God, like, please just shoot the puck every now and again. But like that goal was so funny on so many different levels. That's your solution. This guy is your solution if the backup that you signed, who is clearly done, that was 2 years ago. Right.
That was 2 years.
Who is clearly done, continues to be clearly done. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Look, you give Benoit Allaire the benefit of the doubt, but you can only do so much of what you get. Like, most of the guys they've given him recently were younger guys who, like, just needed reps and experience. Were like Georgiev, Ranta, etc., who turned out pretty well. they haven't done the old guy. I mean, they did Halak last year, and then the last old guy before that was what, Marty Biron? It's been a while since they've done the old guy.
Alex Auld, perchance.
God, you're making names up. That's not a real person.
That's Florida Panthers legend Alex Auld.
You're making guys up. Okay, the last question I have for you, and I just thought of this while you were talking because you were talking about conceding goals. If you could pick the song that would play when the Rangers conceded a goal, what song would you want?
Oh no. Oh no.
Because my first instinct was like just the Benny Hill circus music. and they have to miserably skate back to the bench and get yelled at while the Benny Hill circus music plays. I thought Say It Ain't So, Weezer, I think that would work.
Okay, go. Here it goes again. I really think that could work because the chorus is just here it goes again. It's like that. Yeah, that's the Rangers defense for the past 25 years. Here it goes again.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm still pressed. He said Girardi and Staal are better all time.
Dude,
that's an egregious take.
Staple. I'm billing you. I promise you. I'm billing you. This is not a threat. It's a promise. You are getting a bill in the mail for what you've said. That is, I'm also gonna bill it for my Just for Men because I'm getting gray hairs just getting mad about that. Arthur Staple has ruined me. That's the moral of the story.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue Podcast. We're available on all the major podcasting platforms, YouTube as well. If you go over on YouTube, there's usually a little added value today. There's no hockey to talk about, so no visuals, but during season, we'll get a lot more stuff going on to make that experience a little more engaging. We'll see you guys soon. Drink water. It's hot out there. Summer's winding down. Enjoy it while you can. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.